further ado, great having you here. I'm going to introduce Francois himself. Now, this dude, old Francois de Vet, took money from one VC, né? And you're still trying to spend it. Am I right? The VCs are begging him to take their money. He doesn't want it. Why? Because he's got a great product market fit. How many of you are actually customers of his? Who do you work for? Oh, now I know you work for. And you? I'm older, I'm 50. Okay, your X group. I can't hear so lekker, but okay. Your X group. And you've got a lot of clients, a lot of good clients. And the thing is, their product market fit is perfect. So people want their product, and that is what we strive for. So Mr. De Vet, please join us on stage. Let's hear it for the man.
Yo, I've never been introduced by a radio presenter that was anymore. Thank you, Kino. Thank you so much, and good evening, everybody. It's absolutely phenomenal to be here. I want to thank all of you for coming, thank you for Innovation City and the Wamly team and everybody setting this up. It really looks so beautiful. This is our very first time in Cape Town, and every time we walk in here, we get greeted so warmly, and just thank you so much for all the love and for all of you coming out. All right, so as said, I'm going to go left and right for the text. My name is Francois de Vet. I am the proud founder and the CEO of a company called Wamly. A registered industrial psychologist. I've spent my entire career helping organizations make hiring decisions using data. And I have a similar-ish story where I started my career working for a consulting firm, and then in 2016, 17, broke away. I had this burning fire, this passion in me to start my own thing. And for the longest time, I've been looking at talent acquisition and hiring and thinking, well, what's happening specifically during the interview? But I'll get into that in a second. And so that's then when Wamly was founded. It was founded completely as a side hustle. Tonight is not about our business, just giving you a bit of an intro. But really, this last sentence is why we are here. I actually just got out of a conversation where someone asked me, like, what is these events that we see you guys doing? What has that got to do with your tech? And I said, nothing. And that's the truth. I firmly believe that as HR professionals in South Africa, we don't connect enough. There isn't enough opportunity for us to really network, to really foster deep relationships. Yes, we have these beautiful events. I've been to many of them, but 2,000 people running around, not really talking, trying to figure out on the agenda what breakaway room to go into to learn more about Rem and Ben. That's not really it. And so we decided as a business, we want to create 3 channels that's got absolutely nothing to do with our tech, where we can give back and bring the community together. So there's a podcast, Solving the People Puzzle, if you want to check it out. My latest guest for episode 50, where's Sarah? Sarah, there she is. She and I recorded this morning. So Solving the People Puzzle is a podcast, the Wamly events, which is once a quarter, and then we have the HR Roundtable, which is a dinner and a private group. So that's what this evening is about. It's once a quarter, we bring like-minded individuals together, we give back, we share, but most importantly, we network. And so I was telling Kino at 6:05, if we don't tell them now, you will just continue doing what you were doing. And that's so beautiful. So thank you for giving me your time and being here. Our agenda for the evening, I think this is important because if you don't tell people where you're going, they kind of go, okay, when is it finished? When is it finished? No, okay. So we aim to be here for 2 hours, but these events have gone on in the networking side of things, and then that's on you. It's not on us. So if you want to kuier, please grab some wine, have some food. But I'm going to share briefly a bit about Wamly. Then I'm going to present the top 10 research trends by me. Okay, so it's not someone said, and now you're going, Fran, afterwards. Fran, but this thing, what about? Okay, we did a lot of reading, a lot of research, and we decided these 10 are really the ones that we want to speak about. And also, perspective versus perception is really important tonight. What I'm saying is my take and my understanding and our observation on the trends together with the research and the reading. But then super, super excited to have 3 esteemed panel members here with me, guests, friends. I will introduce them formally when we get there, but we will have a lekker coffee chat here on stage, deep dive into the 3 trends that they handpicked that struck them the most. So I said, hey, here's the 10, pick one that you actually want to talk about, and we will have that conversation, and then a Q&A with you. But one of the things that makes the Wamly event special is we love for you to interact whenever you want. Okay, so please don't wait for the Q&A if something is burning. I remember the one we did in March, there was this one lady in the front, and like, whoop, whoop, whoop. And I was like, yes, I'm encouraging this, go for it. And it just sparks conversation, okay? There's no such thing as a silly question. And yes, we have prizes. In fact, I actually put them here so you can see, people say they've got prizes. And then afterwards, who won it? No, Johnny. Here they are, okay? So as Kino said, prize number 1 is you're going to take a photo, tag us on Innovation City and Wamly on Instagram or LinkedIn with an aha moment. Okay, it can be anything. Doesn't have to be one of the trends, just something. In the build-up to this evening, I saw 2 people going, oh my word, we just met for the first time, okay? And there was one same person with both occasions. So Amy, people were really excited to finally meet you in person. So tag us, that's for the first prize. The team will pick someone. The second one, I'm going to ask a question about the trends, okay? So let op, soos hulle sê in Afrikaans. And then the third one will be at the very end. So that's the agenda. So let's get cracking. Briefly, the rise of Wamly. So just a little of a roadmap. I'm not going to read all of this, just to show you 2018, complete side hustle. I was like looking at the hiring process and going, why do hiring managers and HR argue most psychometric assessment feedbacks with me? And here's what they did. No, Bianca did not look like that in the interview. Because I'm sitting with a report, right? Yes, she's highly introverted, she doesn't like team. No, she's a massive. And I'm like, what's happening here? And that got me curious around the world of interviewing. What's happening during, how are organizations interviewing? Started deep diving there, researching the interview, asking a lot of questions, interviewing a lot of people. And I decided, okay, there's no local provider of video interview technology in South Africa. Okay, there are many global companies, but no one has built this from a local perspective with all our beautiful challenges, right? ESCOM, load shedding, tech, multiple devices, connectivity. And then 2020, my dear colleague whose birthday it is today, so Marnus, if you ever listen to this recording, okay, we're not going to sing there, no. Happy birthday to Marnus Bredrijk. He's retired now in Spain. Beautiful journey. But we launched 2020 MVP. We went to market with a very basic version, asked a lot of questions. Some clients, it broke, some loved it. And then we decided, okay, MVP was successful. Whoopsie, nope. And then we went to market in 2021. So yes, Kino, I also crazy started tech business middle of COVID. But we added companies, Knife Capital invested. Is Jonathan here? Jono's not here yet, but I know Mike is here. He represents Knife as well. So Knife Cap invested in 2021. 2022, we reached 23 countries. We added hundreds of clients more. We launched features. 2023, we reached 80 countries. We launched skills tests. We moved into new offices. And then this year, 2024, we're adding assessments and background checks and talent pools and just really building out the product. And I think the most exciting thing is asking our clients feedback. I think often businesses build a business based on what they think the audience needs or the client needs. Where we are really passionate, and the CX team and everybody at Wamly is really passionate about understanding, what the client needs. But the last time we were here, we had the privilege of winning Tech Startup of the Year, literally right here on the stage. So it's a special moment to be back with all of you. So to date, we have helped over... Thank you. Thank you. To date, we've helped over 500 companies interview almost 500,000 candidates across 34,000 vacancies in 121 countries, and it's just been an incredible, incredible journey. And I think once you're deeply passionate about what you do, like people often ask me, like, why? And I'm so passionate about what I do, and the team, and the clients, and the audience, and you, and HR, and just solving a real problem. I think Kino said, when we get a video interview of a candidate sitting in an informal settlement on a paint bucket, applying for a call center role and getting the job through the Huawei phone, that's like the yes. So it's that aha moment. So 5 slides. In Wamly, you set up your portal, you build interview guides, you add a panel to the project, you launch it out, anybody clicks on the link, they come through into the platform, the panel in HR evaluates and filters and looks at the candidate's videos and everything that you sit with and decide who to take to the next step in the process. It's really that simple. If you want to know more, come and speak to us. But we actually want to get to some of our incredible clients, and I know some of you sit here in the audience. So if you recognize your logo, thank you for being here. And if I haven't yet said hello, please come and grab me afterwards. Anybody, take a photo with us. It's an absolute privilege to have our clients here. And then anybody who's not our clients, it's such a pleasure to have you here as well. All right, 2024 HR and hiring trends. You'll see the 10 trends. They flow in the same sequence as the employee life cycle. So we've purposefully ordered them in that way, starting from recruitment, going straight up through all the way to the employee being in the organization. I want to say this again, there is a lot out there, and there are phenomenal organizations doing this. We are not a research firm, so we read, we handpicked, and we put the ones together that we thought are cool, okay? And what I'm saying tonight is our perspective and our thinking around this, as well as the panels. So let's get into the first 3 categories. All 10 trends belong to these 3 foundational categories, and it starts off by HR is shifting. I'm sure that the individuals in HR can feel it, and here are the 3 areas where the shifts are happening. Firstly, priorities are being realigned. Secondly, operating models are changing. Like we have standard operating procedures and documents, and you go, is this still relevant? I think a lot of the research is asking the question, is what we are doing still relevant? Okay? HR loves process. Okay? We love a policy. We love a document. I was in a conversation earlier today where someone asked, what is your opinion on swearing in the workplace? And then the immediate follow-up question was, are you writing a policy? Right? And it was my lovely wife asking, and it was me asking the question. And then lastly, you'll see as we go through the trends, there's this human flavor. This element of HR is a force, but for good. So that's going to be interesting as we go through the journey. Should we start? Are you excited? Let's get going. Trend number 1. What would a train conversation be without talking about AI in 2024? Right? Who's in ChatGPT? Don't lie. Don't lie. Who's in ChatGPT 4? Have you found the little app thing at the top left where you can... Brilliant. Okay. Interesting, generative AI in HR. The research is saying that we are barely scratching the surface. I was in a conversation earlier with someone who said, I wish that my ATS had more of this, generative AI. So let me give you 3 examples. Number 1, can you crowdsource candidates and scrape their CVs on my behalf? Can an AI chatbot guide the candidate through the hiring journey? And then onboarding, performance management, succession, the possibilities are endless. And the research is saying, or asking the question, are we emerging AI into our HR department yet. I had the privilege last year of being in Paris, not Parijs in the Vrystaat, Paris. And I was sitting at a panel conversation, Vivatech's massive. It's like 170 countries, thousands of people, halls and halls and halls of exhibitions. And I walk into the HR exhibition, and I'm like, where's the tech? There's medtech, edtech, fintech. I saw an Audi without a wheel. I saw a drone carrying a human. It was incredible. And I go to the HR stand, and there was one massive job board. I'm like, so either they weren't there, or we're not here yet. And then the question then becomes, okay, so what is the possibilities? What are the possibilities, apologies? And how can we deeply get this into HR? And then on that panel conversation last year, the question was, is Africa ready for AI? And the awkward reality of that was a giggle. Like the panel didn't really know. And so the research says there's this caution around the awareness of risk and ethics and that. And then Elon Musk goes, well, can we get a bit of a hold on AI dev? Did you guys hear about that survey? I think it was last year. And guess what? The great Elon Musk, with all due respect, it didn't stop. AI is not going to stop. So the research is saying, how do we balance progressive, generative AI, and there's a new one coming, it's called regenerative AI, with our HR hat that needs to look at risk and ethics and bias. We often get asked, so when is Wamly getting AI? And then we say, that's a fantastic idea. We sit with hundreds of thousands of videos. Surely the AI must just evaluate Ilana's video and tell the line manager who to appoint. Do you think your line manager is going to like that? It's an awkward question, right? So how do we integrate that? I don't have the answers. I'm just sharing the research. But fascinating stuff in HR, specifically with AI. Trend number 2, recruitment marketing should be elevated. I love this. The principles in marketing and the principles in hiring are actually very similar. We're trying to get someone to make a decision. And this morning we had a conversation around EVP and brand, because this is what this is about. Do you know who you're looking for, where to find them, where they are, how to grab their attention, their interest, bring them closer into your organization to faster engagement? And it starts with the EVP, employee value proposition. There was a time where I also didn't know, is that called abbreviation? Yes? Yeah. I'm Afrikaans. So that's what it stands for, if you wondered, EVP. And here it's around, how do I create these marketing principles in my hiring process? The boring ad, hoping that the people see it, come in, thousands apply, 980 are irrelevant. Like, that's just not the way anymore. And so the research is emphasizing, go and look at what B2C is doing from a consumer perspective. When you click on Instagram and all of a sudden the thing that you clicked on is just following you everywhere. Okay, how do we do that? So that's number 2, and one of the panel members are going to deep dive into this as well. Okay, number 3, a surge in skills-centric recruitment. I attended a workshop last year, a Deloitte consultant. His entire talk was, we should not hire for job profiles and job descriptions, we must hire for skills. And I sat there and I thought, geez, that's quite interesting. Like, how would you do that? And boom, the research is all over this. Skills are taking center stage in the job market because of the changes in job environments. One of the other trends coming is the collapse of career paths and career ladders. And they tie quite closely together in the sense that, are you focusing on the skills required rather than the job description required? And now we're seeing, and the research is saying, that there's this interdepartmental shifts and moves following the skills required in the organization. We had a lady who started at Wamly, she's left us, but Rosetta was with us for 3 years, and she was in 4 or 5 roles, because every time she would reach a point where the skill set that she had and the job she was doing, she just didn't have flow anymore. And she's like, Fran, but what about that? Can I go and do that? And then we're like, oh, but you need these skills. And she goes and she upskills and she moves into that. And eventually she exited our business because the next skills that she was chasing, we didn't have a role for. And now she's working for one of our clients in that exact position she wanted. So skill-centric recruitment. Is anybody in the audience doing this? Like, let's be vulnerable. Is someone hiring for skills only and discarding a job profile or a job title? Elman.
There's a problem is with that, right? In South Africa, we've got a very unionized environment. So when it comes to like job descriptions and so forth, and hiring and firing people and so forth, because of our context and so forth, it's maybe not as easy for us like the US and Europe to pivot towards it. I know people are going towards that route, right?
Yeah.
But we've got a bit of a different context in the HR environment, especially if you're in a unionized, like engine, we've got a unionized environment.
Yeah.
So it's not as easy to say, hey, I'm not going to have job descriptions anymore, so we're just going to hire and fire on skills.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we try to, I think that's the best way for us to go forward.
Yes.
But a lot of us are hesitant to go in that way because
Spot on. The research says that one of the things that's going to stand in this way here is if we continue to link the job title to a job grade and therefore the remuneration. That's the difficulty here, is how do you do this without discarding what grade I'm on and so therefore this is what I'm going to be paid. You know, what do you pay someone who's good at a pivot table and a VLOOKUP? We don't know, but you appoint them. So, skill-centric hiring. Trend 3. Trend number 4. There's 2 trends here that I thought the audience might think, oh, come on, Fran, like, we know this. But I'll double click on why it's back in the research. So this one is around aligning work with meaning for talent engagement. So how do you design jobs that are meaningful and align with values and goals? And we know this, right? Especially the younger generations. We were actually having a chuckle in there where I was in a conversation with a Gen, I think it's either Z or Alpha, I'm not sure. But you guys know there's a Gen Alpha. Are there any Gen Alphas in the room? You are very welcome. Okay? Where he said, if I cannot read on the job ad your contribution to being green and DIUIA and what are you doing for CSI and I'm like, listen, what about just the job? No, I will not apply. So it's a bit of a tongue in the cheek, but I think here the research says that 20% of us, so there was a study done from Professor Dieter Veldsman. Do you know the name? Yeah. He's now in the Netherlands. They did a study on 3 million HR professionals. 22% of that group said that their jobs lack social value. And so this trend around work meaning and talent engagement is a deeply personal one. Okay? My job lacks value, social value. Can anybody try and define in your own mind, what do you think that means if your job lacks social value? Yes?
Like if you're in a friend group and you're talking about your job and you feel like you're part of it, perhaps, like socially, like
Okay.
status, I think you can attach it to status.
Okay. Yeah? Close? If you die, somebody will miss you. I hope so. Yes. Yes.
There's a big loss in terms of the passing the wall comments, the
Yes.
together
Yes.
conversations where you actually feel connected to another human being in your same organization.
100%.
And that's disappeared.
Yeah.
So how do you artificially fabricate that in a remote world?
I think the answer is you're going to struggle to do it. But yeah. So, yes.
I think social value is leaving a place better than what you found it. So you think about CSI or CSR, like or DRD, it's like you're breaking the societal norms and uplifting it and giving back. So that's
You're all in the right direction here. So it's twofold. Interpersonal in the work environment Okay, and so yes, a massive thing around the way of work, the hybrid, remote, fully back in the office conversation, but then also what is the organization doing from a social perspective, and what is my job, or how is my job contributing to that? And so one of the things that the research says you should do is when someone comes in, irrespective of their job, explain to them how does their job directly influence what the organization is doing. Regardless of your title, regardless of where you sit, what you do, like you, the front-end developer, is making Wamly look really nice so that when the client logs in, they don't struggle. Okay? And when they do that, they use us. Oh, so that's why you say make it red. Yes. Silly example, but that's a social value conversation. And then the research says if we get this right, we will see an increase in productivity, we will see an increase in engagement and job satisfaction. Now again, it sounds fluffy, it sounds nice. We don't all work for NGOs, okay? So we're also there to make money, and so there's this balance around how hard do I go, but how do I also focus on creating an environment where jobs have social value. Number 5, the collapse of career paths. Traditional career paths will collapse. You know this A1 conversation where like, Fran, you are here, I'm here, and there's the ladder. Okay, and if you work really hard, if we give you enough resources, job demand, job resource conversation, and you focus on improving yourself, you could get there. Okay, just climb the corporate ladder. It's going to collapse. And the interesting reason is, yes, the nature of the workforce is ever evolving. COVID accelerated the world to be very small and accessible. How many of your devs are working in the Netherlands now that you used to know? Okay. The structures are just changing. And so this concept around hierarchy, and you always, one of you, I think it's Lee, you speak about a jungle.
Yeah, it's no longer a career ladder, it's more like a career jungle gym.
A career jungle gym. Okay, let's double click on that later. But it's not a career ladder, it's a career jungle gym. So it's ever evolving, and so therefore the focus is on talent mobility. And so this trend also links back to skills, hiring for skills, or moving in the organization to where the skills are needed and the skills that you've got. Super exciting. Who's been part of an organization, or you're now part of an organization where the hierarchy and the ladder has collapsed? Would you want to share one sentence?
Yeah, so I've been in an organization where it's collapsed, in one where it's currently collapsing. And because the previous one was a financial services company, fintech, and now it's fintech. And because you've got a short hierarchy or flat structure, you actually can't have a ladder. And so for someone's mobility to happen, they need to acquire different skills that allow them to move laterally or vertically. And so there isn't a straight ladder where
Yeah.
it's kind of graduates, junior, intermediates.
Yes. Amazing. The interesting part in the research about this is a lot of people put value towards having the ability to move up. So, when are you getting a promotion? Dad asks. Well, I'm working really hard, Dad. I'm hoping next year. What's happening to that conversation? How do I find meaning in my career growth if the perceived I'm going up is collapsing? Open-ended question. Cool to think about. Number 6. Oh, I love this. The end of bullshit jobs. Okay? When I presented this in Gauteng, the audience clapped hands. Okay? So there's a gentleman called David Graeber who coined the term bullshit jobs. And there was a study, 37% UK, 19% US, 17% globally doubt that their job has any value. Bullshit jobs. And it's because of technology, it's because of AI, it's because of automation, that the mundane, repetitive, operational, manufacturing, like just routine, same, imagine a call center agent with this exact same script, having to make 60 calls a day with that exact script. You think they go home and go, geez, that my job is meaningful. Like today, that passion, it's bullshit. Okay? So 83 million job losses and 69 million new jobs will be created in 2024. And it's the end of bullshit jobs. I'm going to be super vulnerable, or ask you to be super vulnerable. Who feels they're now in a bullshit job? Okay? Kino, it's that Tinder question. So when we is that a finger, sir, or is it just a? Oh, okay. So when I asked this at the Gauteng event, there was a gentleman sitting right in front here, Temba. Go and check him out on LinkedIn. He's quite a loud, he's a cool guy. He said, "What about the end of bullshit in HR?" Ooh. Well, it was such a good question, and then someone said, "What do you mean?" And Temba said, "Well, there's so much in HR departments that is bullshit that needs to stop." Just putting it out there. Just putting it out there. All right. Trend number 7. Reskilling for retention. Okay. How do we equip employees? So now you must follow the golden thread here, right? We have hire for skills. Career paths are going to collapse. People will follow their skills in the organization. But also, if we do that, we could retain people by helping them reskill. So equipping employees with new skills, the research is quite clear. Involve your employees when you do this. We often don't ask our employees, says the research, where would you like to develop? We tell them in the PR review, this is where you should develop. And then it's a two-way conversation, the research says. So involve the employees by doing this, but also focusing on the environment. Okay, so how do you reskill for retention, not just for the job, but for the environment? And if you double click on that, the literature says culture fit, environment fit, team dynamics, interpersonal relationships. I can be the best developer ever, or I can be the best CEO ever, but if I look behind me, there can just be a trail of destruction in terms of relationships. So the balance around reskilling for retention. And if you then invest in this, there's a new term, work-life fitness. Have you heard of it? We had a conversation earlier today. It used to be work-life balance. 3 new terms, work-life harmony, work-life integration, work-life fitness, reskilling for retention. Just a side comment. Here's a personal statement. I firmly believe development should be owned by the individual, not the organization. We should provide the environment and resources for development, but if you are not driving your own career, that's on you. Okay? If you get blocked, get out. At least have a nice conversation first. Okay? Right. Tackling e-presenteeism. Can I ask? Give me a definition of presenteeism. Yes. Okay. Your body's at work, your mind's in Mauritius. Okay. Do you agree? Okay. Here's an interesting part in the definition I didn't know. I thought exactly that. Fran is there, but he's not there. Presenteeism also asks the question, why is he absent? And then the research goes and says, there might be many reasons. You might really just want an island holiday. But we also need to understand the emotional demand and labor of not being able to be there. So I'm present, but I'm not, but there's a reason why. And 77% of HR experts witnessed e-presenteeism in a remote world, hence the word e. And that really got me curious, because if you're running a fully remote organization and the employee is so overwhelmed, so overworked, that they physically, from an emotional perspective, can't be there, who's there to see it in their home? And how can we support and help? So, super interesting topic. Go and check it out. E-presenteeism. It's a spin-off into mental health, okay? And the negative effect of working from home. COVID had a lot on mental health. this whole conversation on when am I switching on, when am I switching off. Like, I remember us as well. I was on the couch, I was at the dining table, I was like, where's my space? And then Ilana's like, let's go and eat. I'm like, okay, but I'm still working. Oh, there's the laptop. We can do an entire other talk on that. But the research is saying, let's prevent burnouts by fostering a positive work environment. And here's the key thing, boundary management. So if you are running an organization that's fully remote or hybrid, just think about how to help the employees switch on and off and create those boundaries. Interesting, eh? E-presenteeism. Empathy is making its way back to the C-suite. Oh, okay. 32% of CEOs lack empathy. And the research is saying it's a competency making its way back. Now, the psychologist, industrial psychologist in me goes, but surely you can measure empathy, right? Do people have it, or they either have it or they don't have it? And if not, then can we develop it? So the question then became, well, how is it making its way back? And the conversation was actually, or the research was actually around crucial and open conversations and feedback to the C-suite that you aren't showing empathy. And now the willingness, the research is saying, for them to listen. Now, I never get the definition right around what is sympathy and empathy, and then Gideon helped me earlier. But then we had a conversation around, but a part of this is also compassion. Okay? Because it's hard for the C-suite to just be empathetic, right? They still need to make serious, tough decisions. But the research is saying when this and while this is happening, it's proving a massive shift in leadership priorities and outcomes. Better innovation, better collaboration, better communication, and just a safer environment. Now, psychological safety is not part of tonight's conversation, but we all know that with competencies like empathy, we create a psychologically safer environment. That's not the only contributing factor, but it's definitely part of it. And then the last trend is the CHRO will continue to be elevated as time goes by. So this piece of the research is clearly around owning that seat around the table, getting given the budget, being trusted with tough decisions. And Lee and I had this conversation. We often, and the research mentioned this, sit with CHROs and the imposter syndrome. Am I allowed to be there? Can I speak up? Can I actually meaningfully contribute? Do I understand P&L? Okay. And so the research is saying, nope, there is going to be an elevation of the CHRO. Some of the CHROs, CPOs, chief people officers, whatever you want to call that job title, are even now get given the responsibility of looking at a disaster recovery, weather, hurricanes and winds and floods and amazing responsibilities being shifted there. And I think COVID did well for the CHRO because all of a sudden, everybody looked at HR. Like, what are we doing? People are at home. Can we trust them? And then HR's like, yep, we've got this. It's going to be hard. And we were crying at night behind closed doors. No, we've got this. And because all of a sudden, it was a massive people thing. So that was a brief overview of the 10 trends. And we are now going to invite the amazing panel members forward. I am definitely not going to read the LinkedIn bios. Please introduce yourself very briefly when we get to your section. But it's such an amazing privilege for me to be joined on stage by Suzanne, Amy, and Lee. It's incredible. I reach out and I ask, would you like to join me on a panel? And they're like, what is it about? Yes. So thank you for being part of this evening. Thank you so much for contributing. And thank you for also giving back and sharing your perspective, wisdom, and knowledge. So just so that you know how this worked, I prepped and I asked, look at the 10 and tell me which one excites you, frustrates you, makes you cry, makes you laugh, or you're really deeply passionate about it. And they said, cool. And they send me their trends. So we're going to start off with Lee. And please introduce yourself. And then the topic that excited you the most your perspective on it. We'll have a lekker informal chat. And audience, please raise your hand, contribute as much as you want. Okay.
Hello, everybody. Name's Lee. I am the CHRO at a company called Kurtosis.
There's the renter crowd.
I've been in HR for about 15 years or so. It didn't start that way, but I saw a real gap, a real opportunity, one in which I could develop the trajectory of my own career by establishing a firm foot and sort of being a forefather and adopter of technology within HR. So the subject which speaks to me the most is generative AI, AI automation, and then, of course, the alphabet soup, ML, LLMS, talent LMS. And so we can talk to that. I mean, from my perspective regarding AI, it's an inevitable. It's here to stay. It's never going away. And so you can either try and beat them, and you won't, so we may as well join them. From a raw generative AI perspective, the best way for you to understand this would be the creative element of machine learning. And ultimately, the rudimentary, mundane jobs, they've all been seen to. In fact, a lot of people don't realize that if you work in a very heavy recruitment environment, you've already been working with entry-level AI for quite some time. You've got resume screening capability, you've got multi-posting within your applicant tracking system, and there's a number of iterations on that which is making life a lot easier to filter through large volumes of applicants and candidates. The piece which I really speak to and which I feel deeply passionate about is the kind of trends we're seeing now in the next, I would say the last 18 months. 76% of HR professionals that participated in a Fortune 500 survey done by Gartner and IBM had suggested that if you're not on that wagon to implementing AI and adopting it within your HR offering, you're on a hiding six to love. And then the sad but rather interesting thing on the back of that is 1 year later, so this was done in July 2023, so now July 2024, only 38% of those 76% had made an effort to adopt it. Now, with my fan crowd in the audience, and they can keep me honest, we have gone ahead and implemented quite a substantial portion of the automation of our employment experience using AI. And we are now in a position in which we can intelligently predict human behavior, we can predict turnover and sickness, and we can test against a number of these trends which you're seeing on here, which is things like psychological safety, cross-team collaboration, diversity, equality, and inclusion, trust leadership index. We can analyze sentiment, we can put it into management efficacy scores, we can track goal completion, we can, using objective data-based decisions, have a look at who truly is winning in the performance appraisal arena and exactly how subjective it used to be. And I gotta tell you something, it's mind-blowing.
Sure. Well done.
Thanks.
Anything you would like to add?
Just that I'd love to know more about the performance management piece, because that, you know, that's such an area of subjectivity. So what exactly are you doing in that space? I think it's fascinating.
It stems from...
Sorry, I mean, the question was, we would like to know more about the performance management side of it, for those of you, if you didn't hear it.
Okay, so this sort of came a little bit later. It came after the engagement bits, and it was a natural evolution for us as an HR team. We noted that we're a technology company, so we hire a lot of software engineers, a lot of technical business analysts, and a lot of database decision-making type profiles. And as to that sort of career jungle gym scenario, it's a very flat structure. And the people that were getting promoted into these roles of seniority or management, so the management of other humans, were technically very, very good, but had never managed a human in their life. And so they were approaching that Peter principle, you know, at a rapid rate. One of the strategic objectives that we put in place for an OKR on our JIRA World-Class Talent and Culture Board was a management efficacy score. And so we now run a Python script over all the information that's being received over the H1 performance appraisal cycle, including the sentiment analysis, including the goal completion rate, and including a thing we've built now, which is it's like a career development matrix and where they're tracking on that. And we're feeding that back to the managers. And there are some really uncomfortable conversations. But you will always win that argument through a conversation using the data as evidence.
That's good. Yes.
So, Lee, I mean, absolutely fascinating. And I'd love to hear some of the thoughts from the audience on this one. But What we've also experienced is, given all of this data analytics that is now available, it fundamentally shifts our role as HR practitioners. And typically you kind of have this caveat between technology and humanity. And this fundamentally says it needs to be integrated. So on the one side, it is your willingness, your passion to be able to engage with the technology and the data, and then also your ability to reskill yourself so that you can act as that business partner to your clients. So maybe just some thoughts, I don't know, from the audience or even from the panel around what you've seen play out in your various organizations, because it does require that fundamental shift on our side.
Audience first.
There's a question.
Hi, actually very fascinated about the part about AI. I love AI. Actually pursuing it in education and research. And one biggest thing that I have a problem with is the data set. One of the biggest problems is there's always bias. And the bias that we see is either when it comes to racism, sexism, or things of that sort. Because we have to understand that the data that is being fed into the system is essentially representative of the whole population, in which some other people might not be in that specific either department or do not have an equal voice within that paradigm. So the question that always comes to my mind is, how does an organization actually account for that?
Yeah.
So I can account on how to actually pay attention to actually might have this problem when it comes to, let's say, STEM subjects, when it comes to representation or things of that sort, because it's always tricky. So I'm always curious on how they account for that, or rather how you account for that. Very interesting.
Yeah, it's a really great question, and it's a proper belter. It's a difficult one to answer because there is, ironically, always going to be an element of subjective bias, and it depends on the way that you configure the applications. The way we've done it is we do a lot of the data under the cover of anonymity, and we group the employees, not by DEI status at all, but within their teams. And then there's various levels of permissions as to what value they can attribute when we receive the information back. But the value that we overlay against those data samples are as a result of Katosa's CHRO going, I think that this piece is super valuable, and so we'll give it a weighting of 10. So that's also where a lot of the subjectivity comes into. But I'd love to catch up with you after this and we can unpack that, because it sounds like you've got a really, really difficult, interesting problem, you know?
I'd like
Thank
to,
you.
I'd like to just add on to that one, because I think phenomenal question. But going back to our role in exactly that context, where you have the data, where there could be potential biases, and the role that we have to play in the interpretation in the context of the business unit or the client. So I think just, yeah, phenomenal example. Thank you for that.
Hi.
Amy invited us to ask questions. So, I think before we all become very obsessed with trying to find better ways of measuring performance,
Yeah.
I'd like to ask you specifically, how much work did you do to create a performance culture in your organization?
That's good.
So what are the fundamentals that you, if anything, try to establish so that whatever you bring in as an alternative way of measuring performance is far more adopted or had a better chance of being adopted? So I feel like one of our disconnects are we're always trying to find better ways to performance manage without creating the right performance culture.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And there's two schools of thought there. You can manage by objective, or you can manage by incentive. And we had a manage by objective culture, which becomes very difficult to reward in a performance capacity, because we also had, and I know everyone's going to hate me for this, but it's how I feel, we had a 5-point rating system on performance. And so you've now got an ill-equipped manager. It's not about strength. They're not weak. They're just not equipped. And what they do is they're too junior to have the hard conversation around you either met expectations or you didn't, or you definitely exceeded expectations, and here's how we're going to quantify you making money, saving money, and improving efficiency. So there was a lot of work that had to go through there. You had to rip out a lot of the wheat from the chaff, and we repurposed this 5 points into 3 points, and then we created a marketing campaign, and we ran people through a whole bunch of management foundational training, and I don't know if it's bearing the fruits of our labor, because we still have these scenarios, but from a culture of performance, I haven't yet worked at one company that doesn't claim that that's how they work. That's the other thing.
Stunning. Any other questions for Lee or comments around generative AI? Yes.
So, I have a question. The HR portfolio is usually the one that gets the least amount of money invested. So, how did you convince such a big team to invest so much money to use something as AI? Because they usually try and use most of the funds for something that will actually bring in money and not the people.
Yes, and that's another great question. When I joined my team, there were 8 people in it. And we were doing a lot of manual intervention. We were still running off of Excel documents. Things were being saved in SharePoint very badly. And it's not me poo-pooing my previous or the previous administration. I just knew we could do it better. And so ultimately what happened was I showed them one piece of tech through automation, so basic machine learning, not even onto AI yet. And we were able to show greater output capacity with less headcount, basically. Now, we didn't set out to go and, chop heads on the blocks. That's not what we intended to do. But ultimately, what happened over the course of the last 3 years was we were able to radically reduce the attrition. At start was 43%. Today, it's 11.1. I calculated that it costs us about 15% of a gross annual salary, average, let's say, 500,000 Rand a year, to replace that person. Through loss of institutional knowledge, loss of productivity, and sometimes you have to pay externally to get the best people. And when I showed them that saving, it turned in economies of scale to now making, and they were happy to make the investment. But I was lucky as well. We got a brand new CEO 3 months after I jumped in. So, but yes, it's a hard slog. Even today, I think we cut too deep. Keisha's sitting next to you. She's my 2IC. I think we're one person too short. We've got 4 now. But that's how we got it done. Additional output capacity, less heads, more automation and machine learning.
Amazing. I think a final comment from me around this, just back to the research, and this is for everybody here, is just jump in and play.
Yeah.
I think often, and you said it in the Gartner stats, we fear as humans the unknown, right? And so we default back to our factory settings. And AI is here to rapidly change, is already changing so much. Are you going to engage with it, or are you going to stay away from it and then potentially become irrelevant? Kodak, BlackBerry, 3310, Snake 2, no longer around. Comment.
Having an employee file.
Oh.
Should I have a crack first? Do you want to I can tell you, I haven't really thought about it to that extent, but a scenario has just popped into my mind now that you've asked that question. We had a Q2 quarterly business review in London recently, and in order to spice things up, I went and trialed some deep fake technology from Synthesia. And I took a photo of myself, I gave it some movement, I gave it 30 seconds of my voice, and then I fed it a script, which was essentially my executive summary. And it was me. And I get called Charlie as a nickname, and it's now called Charlie II. And it's one of our most popular members of staff, and I hadn't really thought about it until you said that. So I have no further comment other than that's really, really interesting.
So just the question was, what do we think about AI being part of the staff complement and having an employee file? That was the question, right? Yeah.
So Lattice, which is a tech company, they did that, and then I think they had to take it down because they got such backlash. They removed the post from LinkedIn, etc., and said, actually, we're not doing that. So there was massive, massive backlash. A few years ago, we introduced a chatbot called Chico, And we gave Chico a cheeky personality. And he used to pop up and say things to people online like, hey, it's Chico, don't forget to do this. Or, hey, it's Chico, you know, have you thought about that? And people really liked it. And I think it was really good for our HR brand. I think that the lattice piece was just a step too far, to be honest. And I think it kind of feels like it's in bad taste. But I stand by Chico, who even had a LinkedIn profile.
I think it's fascinating, the world that we're living in, and I've got a 7-year-old, and he's Gen Alpha, by the way. So yeah, he won't not be here. But very interestingly, so some of the futuristic trends also speaks to if you consider your contact center environment, and you know that you've got these supervisory roles, and how actually automation can take over those roles and real time be able to coach someone, engage them, understand their passions, and really be able to support them quickly and easily. Now, I don't know what that will really feel like from an experience perspective, but according to research, and apparently employees can't even tell the difference. So I think we're heading for interesting times.
Elman.
Yeah, so David Green, as one of you guys know, I like my H analytics, right? So he spoke about the evolution of H analytics, where he went to H analytics to people analytics. This is the next evolution of the workforce analytics, because you're going to get your AI is going to become part of your workforce. So you have to check where people is better, where your AI is going to be better. So if you look at output and so forth, it's going to become workforce analytics to not just look at the people contribution. And I think it's what you guys are talking, it's going that way.
Yeah.
Is that HR, we need to look at what is the output that we are going to get. Currently, we're just focusing on the people, but at some point we're going to introduce tools, and we're going to look at workforce analytics.
Final comment on that. Firstly, Wamly staff, we need a popping up Wamela. Okay, that's very cool. But Elman, I think on a serious note, it talks exactly to, are you going to engage it or are you going to stay away from it? A mindset around staying away and it's bad and no, you can't get an employee number and you're not one of us it's a me versus you conversation versus what you're describing, workforce analytics and integration is, it's an us conversation and we together are achieving the business outcomes. Like, who would not want an end to bullshit jobs, right? So let's welcome it and engage with it. Fascinating stuff. Thank you, Lee.
Thank you.
Amazing. All right, Amy.
Hello.
Hello.
So I'm Amy Brand. I have a different accent. I'm from Ireland, but I've been in Cape Town for about 8 years now. I've got about 20 years global HR experience, and I've lived and worked in Spain, Ireland, where I was born, London, Switzerland, New York, and now Cape Town. Yes, so feel very privileged to be here, and people keep asking me which my favorite country is. Today it's Cape Town.
We are still not completely over the second rugby game of the other day, but we will forgive you for that. Amy, what trend stood out for you? What trend would you just like to share more a bit about?
It was interesting looking through it and the link between marketing and recruitment. And when I was looking at that, I think we actually need to elevate that further. And it's not marketing and recruitment, but it's HR. And how do we borrow techniques from marketing to have much more impact? And I think we're missing a trick if we don't do that. So you talked a lot about recruitment and marketing in general, but if we think about HR and marketing, actually we want the same things, but we have different customers. So marketing wants to change customer behavior, or they want our customers to do something different, right? Buy our products, change their behavior, etc. That's what we want in HR. We have our employees, and we want to either attract them, which is the recruitment piece, or we want to change behaviors. We want more performance. We want more engagement. So actually, there's lots of things that marketing does that can elevate our impact in HR. And I just wanted to talk about a couple of those and spark a bit of a conversation on that. So the first thing is user-centered design. So marketing does this really well. They really want to understand, and you talked about it, Francois, in your intro. You want to understand your clients' needs, their pain points, what's going on in their lives, and how your solution can help them. That's actually what we need to do in HR. So do we really understand our employees? So we talked about data. We have some data, rudimentary data. We know who we have, maybe what age they are, where they're based. You know, what more? How much more do we have? Okay, we probably have performance ratings. But what are their likes? What are their dislikes? What are their pain points? What are their daily realities? You know, what does working in your organization mean to them? Virgin Trains in the UK actually did a really interesting study, and their HR team went out and spent a day with the train driver and with the customer service person, and they really understood what is it like to be in that role for that day. When are they really busy? When are they stressed? How is it like to deal with customers on the front line? And I think we get a lot of criticism sometimes in HR. Do we really understand what it's like, what their realities are when we're pushing out our processes? So then Virgin were able to change their approach to take that into account. So they're able to say, oh, actually, you know, their downtime is kind of the afternoons. So let's think about how we target some of our communications at a time that works for them, not necessarily at a time that works for us, because we're pushing it out at that time. The next piece that marketing does really well is co-creation, and you talked about it, right? You want to bring your clients together and actually create products, really understanding what they're doing and make your clients part of the journey. And I think that's a great technique for us in HR as well, and I'm sure some of us are doing some of it. So, for example, if we want to put in place a new performance management process, do we get our HR team in a room and come up with that, or do we ask for volunteers across the organization to say, hey, what do you think? How do we make this meaningful for you? How do we take your experiences into account? Co-op, which is a supermarket in the UK, did that, and they had really good impact with that approach. And in my company, when we started, we co-created the people strategy with the organization. We used a design thinking approach. We brought people, we asked for volunteers, but actually 80% of people wanted to be part of it because it was important to them. And you own what you create, right? So if you're part of something and you feel like you've shaped it, it feels like it's yours, and it's not being done onto you, and someone's pushing out a process or pushing something out that you'd no involvement in. So I think that's another really helpful technique that marketing uses. And another thing to think about is no one size fits all. So if we think about ourselves as customers, we don't like one size fits all, right? We're unique. We have our own needs. We might want different features. We want different price points. And how do we adopt that in HR? So how do we think about our employees from an individual perspective? And I think all this talk of AI, more and more, people want to be individuals, right? You don't want to be a number. You want to be considered. What are my needs? Where am I at? How are you thinking about me? And 3M did a very interesting thing. They categorized their organization based on why people were working there and what their key motivations were. So they had some funky names. I don't know if I'll remember all of them, but let me give it a go. The first was in it to win it. So they wanted a very dynamic culture. They wanted to, be progressing, moving on to doing different things. There was in it to live it. Which were people that cared about different working patterns. So they might want to work part-time, or they might want to have work-life fitness or integration, etc. And then there was in it to experience it, which was actually, I want development experiences, I want growth opportunities. And so by thinking about their population and segmenting them, they weren't taking a one-size-fits-all approach. They were then able to think about their talent practices based on the needs of the different populations they had in their organization. And there's some other examples of that I can share as well, but I'm conscious of time. And maybe just one last one is personas. And I guess you do this in Wamly, right? So you'll be thinking about your different personas of clients that you're looking at. Well, we can do that in HR. So we did that exercise a few years ago, and we thought about the typical typical employee or a few typical employees that we have. And we actually have a lot of independent contractors as well, so we thought about them. And then when you create that and you go, okay, this is Bob. Bob's been here about 20 years. He's a bit resistant to change. He doesn't really like new things. And then we have Fiona, who's super new, really enthusiastic, loves shiny new things. How do we think about Bob and Fiona when we're rolling our things out, you know? And we actually think about, okay, well, Bob might say this. So how do we counter that, and how do we think proactively about that? Yeah, so those were my thoughts. Let's elevate the recruitment piece, because it's much broader than that. And I think it's a real opportunity for us to have much more impact in HR.
Brilliant. Yeah. Comments from either Lee or Suzanne?
Sure, thank you for that. I think just maybe one thought. I don't know, again, about audience members, but when it comes to communicating, so typically we have these cadences where we say, right, on date X, there's communication that can go out from a specific division. And when we started that, we actually saw how much communication goes out from HR. So that was one. The second component around that was then actually, what is the uptake? You know, typically we sit and we're like, well, I sent out a communication, like, you know, those individuals who go on the email and then like 2:05 on the 27th of August, and you're like, oh, I'm so sorry, I missed that one. But essentially something that about 2 weeks ago we spoke about is how do we start elevating and shifting this engagement with our employees, and not only on this one trick pony of sending out emails. And from a research perspective, a topic that came up was really talking around the 3 Vs, also a marketing trend where we partnered with our colleagues, but it's voice, video, and vernac. So as you start engaging your employees or you roll out anything new, to really start looking at those 3 components as a different engagement model. And we have to say, given the video engagement, we have seen, I mean, a massive shift. I think they talk about trends in engagement like 3 seconds. You lose someone in literally 3 seconds, and where the video has actually really supported us. So I can absolutely see that.
No, we do video communication with our CEO on a bi-weekly basis. We call it a coffee talk, and we've got huge engagement there because you can see the person and we get the questions, etc. And I think from a communication perspective, the internal branding. So I don't know how much you brand or everyone brands their internal communications. I've got brilliant people in my team, and they just create these stunning, stunning things that just have so much impact when you send them out. So I have a very traditional communication style, I realize, and then I have to leverage ChatGPT and people in my team to make it short, sharp, punchy, and so people don't get lost as well. So really thinking about that makes a difference.
You've forgotten about your intranet. You've got an intranet. And I've seen it, and it's beautiful. And it's difficult not to want to log on to that every day and see which dashboards are streaming across, or new deal alerts that have come up, or internal comms, or the latest podcast or blog that's been written. So that's the internal comms, and that's how we're consuming information these days, isn't it? It's either online through our ears or our eyes. So that's the one thing which we're trying to do in our team. And then externally, who doesn't love a shop window? I mean, we all want to work at Red Bull, don't we? You know, but we don't really know what it's like when we're there. So yes, to that point, I think it's very prevalent and super, super important to have that segue between marketing and HR.
Yeah. On the recruitment piece, it's really interesting, the targeting and who you targeting. But some companies do really cool videos. Oh, sorry. Are you okay?
Now it's a party.
So some companies do really cool videos, like a day in the life of, so you really understand what is it like to work here, or let's interview the team and really get the sense of the vibe of working there. And then IBM have started to do very nice infographics. And you know, sometimes you get really lost in a job description. It's so long, what do they actually want? It can be a little bit boring. But how do you elevate that and make it really attractive and just pull out the key points to really attract attention?
Anybody from the audience want to ask or say something around marketing and recruitment / HR?
I don't have a question, but it's just something that came up very recently, I think about last week, but a trend at the moment is, so you know there's creators and TikTok and everything, it's companies actually using their staff as their creators, so UGC, but through your staff and your employees, so like you said, day in the life art,
Yeah.
but really leveraging that and people can connect with that because they're relatable, it's authentic, and it's just really interesting because that really caught my attention. I don't know if you have a thought on that.
No, well, and companies are using TikTok for job ads, right? We're not doing that at the moment. My team wants me to. We need to move in that direction. But it's also who are you trying to attract and what is your target audience? And so for some companies, that'll make huge sense. For other companies, it'll make less sense. There's no point doing it if it's not going to add value. But yeah, I think it looks amazing. And then you get so much more insights. You really understand what is it like to work there.
Yeah, so I do a lot of the employer branding at my current company, FinChoice, and we started a little project we call Finfluencers, where we've tasked about 8 of our employees to post like twice a month, so basically what life is like at FinChoice. And what we found is that it really grew our LinkedIn engagements, and not all our employees are in HR, so it's different departments. Some are in marketing, some are in the contact center, and basically what that has provided is that people are now texting them to ask them like, are there any job openings? So I really like employing marketing techniques into HR because those techniques we're trying to get the same thing.
Yeah.
So they really do work. And
No, that is an awesome idea that lots of people here are going to be stealing.
I
Yeah,
want to
you're
share.
going to paint it.
I want to share a story with all of you. So, at one of our previous events, we always obviously aim to get the audience full, and so we're tracking the numbers and the tickets. And the next moment, it was actually on my birthday. The team phones me and they're like, "Listen, we just had 200 people register in the morning." Now I'm like, okay. I want to be glad, but it's actually that's not possible. So we track back. What happened was someone found the collateral of the event and created a TikTok 30-second video that went viral. I think it had 34,000 views. But he said, for all young students out there looking for a job, you need to come to this event because HR is going to be there and they're hiring. So, brilliant, right? Absolutely. And 200 sub, yeah, so needless to say, we couldn't accommodate. But that was just the one thing that I think is just brilliant. Like
That's
TikTok,
amazing.
influencer, create value, 30 seconds. It was quite a quirky video. Like he had us in the background. It was like, I think Simba actually ended up phoning him and he said, like he just, that's what he thought. Like he wasn't trying to be funny. And we're like, so that's the one thing. And then the other thing is what we're experimenting with at Wamly is to create an avatar out of a job. So let's take a sales manager, create an avatar, but it's way more than the job profile. It's what's the hobbies, what motivates this person, where do they hang out, what's their age, what's their this. Like create this avatar, then create ads that then follow on Meta and LinkedIn this avatar, and then create excitement into Wamly from that. Wow. It's early days, but definitely 100% I think the way to go in terms of attracting talent specifically. I know I'm back to recruitment, but completely agree with you. In HR's massive opportunities.
Absolutely. And what you were saying, the link between company brand and employer brand is so connected and they have to be coherent as well. And I guess companies will manage their brand and they'll manage comments, etc. And Glassdoor is such an important reference as well. And to actively manage it, to give insights into your culture. And when you're feeling confident, it's good to encourage people to go on Glassdoor. I think you always get the random ones, and then it's how do you respond to those random kind of negative posts. But actually the way you do that gives so many insights into your culture and what it's like to work at the company.
Awesome. Suzanne.
Hi, Fran. Hi, everybody. So, Suzanne, I'm a talent enthusiast, and I do have to give a shout out to all the recruiters in the house, right? I started my career at Capitec as a recruiter. I'm very jealous of Lee and Amy, who have traveled the world with their jobs. But I got to travel South Africa. So there we go, thank you. All right. I'm telling you, Kwakwa, Harry Smith, they're my vibes, okay? It's real. And, you know, potholes when you are literally, I feel like, the only woman driver and you're driving a red Renault Clio with white racing stripes. Like the whole town knows Capitec is there to assess for jobs and opportunities. So I'm talking around the career trending topic and something that I'm truly passionate about. So indulge me and please stay with me because I did practice it in the car and my 7-year-old did critique me. So just stay with me for a second. But I want to start off this topic maybe sharing a scenario that I hope all of you can resonate with when you sit at your desk and you get this email coming through, an invite that says, I want to have a career conversation. Okay, so it comes through your mailbox. Now you just quickly think, who is this individual? You know, how much time am I really going to need in terms of engaging this person? You set up the conversation and you start engaging. And, you know, typically how this conversation goes is, all right, so talk to me about why you want to have this conversation. So I'm interested to progress in my career. Maybe you can tell me a little bit about career opportunities because I want to move. What is available? You know, I'm at that time of my career where I'm looking for the next thing. Cool, then typically your response, well, what are you interested in? What are your skill sets? Where are you in terms of your life stage? And about halfway into the conversation, you realize we're actually not having a career conversation, we're having a remuneration conversation. Yes. Okay. All right, so I'm seeing some yeses, yes, all right. My husband said don't ask the audience to put up their hands, okay? But I'm gonna go from the feedback that you've experienced this. Now, why am I mentioning the scenario to you? Throughout my career, that was one of the big topical points and shifts that we had to make. So that's a first trend I wanna talk about, is how we define the concept around career progression. In the name, if we talk about career progression, career advancement, career trajectory, it has a linearity to it. It is just an automatic response. That linearity then leads to the fact of saying, okay, well, there's then status, there is remuneration that goes with it. So one of the big distinctions that we wanted to make is to say, right, how do we shift that narrative? And we're changing the terminology to growth and relevance. So kind of the whole career thing, we almost want to fade a little bit into the background. Now, why is that important? From a traditional perspective, as soon as you talk about career progression, it means one, there has to be a vacancy, right? There has to be a job. So firstly, you are now creating a dependency. I can't grow in my career because there isn't a job. So that's kind of your traditional approach. The second part is I have to compete for that job. So now already you're creating exclusions. So just based on those two components, people are like, careers and where am I going? And maybe you can resonate in terms of your own company. So the shifts we're talking about is to say, one, we're moving into growth, and secondly, into relevance. Now, what does that mean? So we are shifting to say, how can I expand my value and impact in my current role and gain the financial and status that goes along with it? How many of you here today, if you think about, let's say you've been in the same role now for 12 months, 12 to 18 months, how many of you are doing the same thing, the same way that you did 12 months ago? No hands, I'm taking that as a maybe not so much. So the way that roles are evolving at the moment and at that rapid pace, within your role, there should be opportunities created that you can expand, add value and impact. So that is one of the opportunities that we wanted to create. The second part around this career progression component or growth, we speak about the jungle gyms, we speak about the lattices, where we're saying, right, it's no more this linear pathway. I can now move cross-functionally. You know, there's a job and it's job families. I don't know how many of you have implemented this in your organization, but the access to a cross-functional opportunity is hard. You know, now I'm sitting in a branch, I'm a frontline staff member, I want to be in IT. How do I get there? Now, typically, we go through the recruitment process. These individuals are rejected 50 times because what is the one thing that our hiring managers tell us? Thank you. Is that your wife? Can I ask that you say that loudly? Oh, sorry. Oh, I'm so sorry. The experience. Okay, so hiring managers are saying, I'm so sorry. Put my foot in that one. But hiring managers are saying, I want experience. So now these beautiful career paths are here that we've spent hours and hours, and literally once you're done with the first one, it changes. How do we get individuals to actually now move over and have access to opportunities? Now, I'm going to share a little bit with you. It's something that we're very proud of at Capitec. Maybe come and find me afterwards. We launched a talent mobility initiative. So it's a facilitated talent mobility program where we engage our frontline staff members. You don't need to have any experience. You don't need to have any qualifications. The only thing we're looking for is passion, energy, motivation, and learning agility. You apply for these opportunities, anybody can apply, and for 12 months, we pay your salary and we teach you the skill that you want to learn, and we guarantee you a job in that skill set afterwards. This includes jobs like developers, business analysts, data analysts, software engineers. So from a career movement, you have to be intentional. And then the second project is really around that commitment to say, we will make it work. We commit as an organization to have 60 to 70% of our roles being filled by internal team members. Because we trust our team members, they know our products, they know our clients, they know our culture. And I think that that is something that I want to encourage the businesses sitting here to really think about. Because what you are doing is you are changing people's lives. These are individuals within their communities that can now go home and say, well, I'm a developer or a software engineer for Capitec, and something that they would have never been able to consider. So I'm going to stop it there, because I can go on forever. But yeah, food for thought.
Amazing, amazing.
Yes.
Like probably the truest example.
Brilliant.
I was just like, I'm a super
circle
hugger.
back.
Yeah, like I'm a super hugger. So if you see me, like I'm gonna come for you. I'm good, like air hug. Thank you.
Comments here, and then comments from the audience, and then we're gonna wrap up. Okay.
I think that's absolutely amazing. And it's something to inspire everyone in this room, I think, and beyond. So huge congratulations. One thing that I was reading about recently, which is relevant to this as well, because you kind of think, how do you do it? How do you do this skills-based approach? And LinkedIn was actually running experiments recently where they took the experience off the CVs, and it was for customer service agents with LinkedIn. And they took the experience off, so they kind of just blacked it out, and then they asked people to do assessments based on skills, and they appointed them into roles based on how they did in those assessments. And most of the people who got into the roles did not meet the experience requirements, but are actually doing very well in the roles. So I thought that was a nice example of maybe how some other companies can apply, because it's kind of hard to get your head around how would we actually do it. But anyway, there's an example from LinkedIn.
Debunking the myth of experience.
There's actually amazing research around the predictive validity of various assessment methods to predict job success. And at the very bottom of that is like graphology and star signs, but just above it sits age, experience, and qualification. And the higher up you go, you run into competence, cognitive ability, structured interviews, behavior, and a combination of that and work samples. So, but yeah, what's the first thing we do when we pick up a CV? Knowledge, qualification, experience.
So there's a very provocative guy who worked in the psychometrics area called Roger Philby. And it's very provocative because he's written an article that says past performance is the least reliable predictor of future performance. And you think, what? That's what we've been working, all our competency-based interviews, etc. So it's a very interesting, he's a good guy to Google, because it talks to exactly that. There's cultural fit, and you know, that's kind of easy to change, skills, but actually how, you know, people's behaviors, much more hard to change. So anyway, very interesting area.
Very interesting. You want to add?
Yeah, I went to a talk in 91, and there was a very interesting...
In 1991?
No, at 91.
Oh. It's like Lee, amazing memory. Can't wait to hear.
I think I was about 11. I'm so advanced as well, you know. Unbelievable. And a really interesting CEO from a company called Arctic Shores, and he hypothesizes that it's very difficult to do it at a later phase within your career, but it's best to grab you while you're in that graduate space. And he notably told us of a story of a Welsh sheep farmer's daughter who had no future prospects other than to take on daddy's farm, who now works at JP Morgan as an equity analyst. And no CV, nothing, barely finished school. They put her through a competency assessment and she smashed it. So I think that is definitely the way of the future. But until then...
Get rid of the CV.
Yeah, get rid of the CV. I'll have a crack at the answer. I think we're doing a bit of a full circle. We're going back to old school psychometric assessments and being able to double down in specific areas that we're wanting to test against, creating an index, and then measuring the progress or regress depending on the results. Will the AI be able to assist with that? 100% it will be. In what shape and form, I don't know. I'm not an engineer by trade, but having seen the rapid order of magnitude in which technology is starting to eat the world, I can safely presume the answer to be yes. But again, not today, maybe tomorrow.
I think we need to retain our humanity and our human beings also looking at things. So we do use a recruitment platform, and AI gives the CVs a score. So it'll say, you know, this is an 86% fit or a 92% fit or a 30% fit. But we still look at the CVs. We just do it in kind of priority order. And I think you still need someone in charge with a brain who uses judgment and isn't just completely data-driven, but applies some level of judgment. I don't know what the future holds in that regard, but my hope is we still have a role in that regard, that we're not just, oh, the system told me to do it, and that's what I'm doing, because that's a scary, scary world. So I think we have to retain human judgment and assessment, even if we're getting the help that we get from AI to go, okay, let's prioritize these and take a look at them first, but let's take a quick look at the others as well.
Sarah, to that point, our Chief Product Officer, she's recently joined. Her name's Michelle. She's a South African but lives in London. She tested the AI on the ATS, and all she did was she scraped the information from the role description, put it into ChatGPT 4.0, said, please create me a CV to match, and it was the #1 rated CV within the applicant tracking system. So there's gamification all over the place.
It's like the SEO rules. I'm not getting the right information. I'm getting the people who have got access to the right tools. And then we've just got the digital divide, exponentially, atrocious English out. And then the response to that is we're going to go hyper-local. We're going to start hiring from within our networks. And then that pushes us even further away. So I'm not anti-AI. I'm just really, I get really concerned at the level of privilege that's like, you need to be privileged to make this technology. And I get uncomfortable.
I'd love to share some insight, but I'm conscious there is a hand. So maybe question and then because I think great conversation topic.
It's not really a question, it's just a comment. So I think like you were all talking about AI, and I think AI is great. And when you were talking about AI having employee power and stuff, I think you're missing the point. It's not a person, it's a tool. And I think what I just want to say is like serious. What I want to go over assumption, but if we're going away from career ladders and going towards skills and career portfolios, does the AI understand that and can it then support screening? And if it can't, what I want to say is we need to not be lazy and rely on the tools to do the job for us. We need to also apply our wisdom and discernment. Because as much as we might not enjoy it, it's our job to make sure we get the best people in the space. And the AI might not even, the AI is very unlikely to have that wisdom and discernment. We might be able to get there one day, but we're not there. So amazing talent like Sarah might not get through the screening process because the AI is not able to understand or apply techniques. So I'm just saying, I think it's great that we're using these tools, but we shouldn't over-rely on them.
No, I just wanted to make a comment. I think that very interestingly, we are actually in, it's not in all roles, but in specific roles, and it's becoming more and more, we're actually amplifying kind of the face-to-face conversations and relying on that personal engagement more irrespective of the CV. Because you mentioned it, the lady that worked within your company that moved in various different skills and roles and different types of opportunities. And typically, again, when a hiring manager sees something like that, they're like, ooh, but you didn't stay in your role, like very traditional. So that engagement is just go and have a cup of coffee with this person, irrespective of where they come from, their qualification. And I think that's the biggest opportunity that we have as HR professionals, is to open up our clients' mindsets when it comes to the hiring component. It's something that we're not there yet, but we're shifting towards saying that it is about that personable engagement. It's not about what they are doing, it is about what can they do.
I have to, unfortunately, not stop the conversation, but change the nature by having us conclude and then stand up, and we're going to network and have drinks and take photos, and please continue on with this. The reality is we could sit here for 3-4 more hours. That's the beauty of this phenomenal question and comment. But from my side, I want to thank the three of you so much for coming and sharing. Can we please give them a massive round of applause?